The Price is Right. For over 30 years, the popular game show, The Price is Right, has had a wide variety of contests and games, all with the same basic challenge. Guess the prices of everyday and not so everyday items. The contestants whose estimates are closest win the prizes and move on to more difficult games with even bigger prizes. For our purposes this morning, I'm not going to put up various items and have you guess the price, which would also actually be a really fun thing to do. But I do want you to think about the concept of the Price is Right in a new manner. What can you do in your everyday lives to move forward the concept of pay it forward? Pay it forward is an expression for describing the beneficiary of a good deed and repaying the kindness to others instead of to the original benefactor. Here are some examples. A young boy in the parking lot of Cracker Barrel found a $20 bill. As he went in and looked into the restaurant, he found a soldier, Colonel Frank Daly, and he decided to give the $20 bill to the soldier with this note. Dear soldier, my dad was a soldier, and I found this $20 in the parking lot when we got here. As a family, we like to pay it forward, so today's your lucky day. Thank you for your service. Signed, Michael Eckert. Daly was touched by the genuine gesture, and it didn't take long for this to go viral. And Kyle was on CBS. His video went to over 1 million views, and he was invited to appear on The Ellen Show. A year later, his family spearheaded a nonprofit organization called The Power of 20 for the sole purpose of giving on a greater scale to charities and families in need, all inspired by this one small boy's great simple act. In another case, Burns Jones was standing triumphantly at the top of Mount Kilimanjaro with his family, wishing he could buy a t-shirt or some kind of other gear to mark his wonderful accomplishment. That was hard to come by in Tanzania, so he decided to make a clothing line himself. But one wrinkle, he wanted to give back to the guides and porters who helped him up the mountain, and many of them were making less than $10 an hour. And so he decided to put together a thing called the Kilai Summit Club, a place where people could not only share pictures and stories of their climb, but buy merchandise where the proceeds would go in large part to the porters and to the guides. It was a simple idea that made a huge difference for people whose dangerous jobs go mostly unnoticed. Now, most pay-it-forward signs end within just the person behind you. However, at a Starbucks in St. Petersburg, Florida, one of their workers told the following story. The woman drove up, paid it forward to the person behind her, and for the next many hours, this continued until 365 people had paid it forward. I love these stories because they are all simple acts that each of us could do when we have the means to do. This past week, 25 of you who are members of this UU community received in the mail a letter from Reverend Linda and myself. In the letter, we described the concept of paying it forward. And in the letter, we included a $1 bill and asked you to be creative and find a way to pay that dollar forward. Reverend Linda and I look forward to the weeks ahead to hearing your stories of how you've chosen to pay it forward. For those of you who did not receive a letter, I challenge you this day to find each day a way to pay it forward. These past few weeks, I have often reflected upon a famous prayer that I'm sure many of you have heard, the Serenity Prayer. And it states, God grant me the serenity to change the things I can, to change the things I cannot, to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The coming of the coronavirus into our world has wreaked havoc, and this is one of those times to change the things that we can. Despite what is happening in the world, in our community, we still have the ability to choose, to decide, and change the things that we can. We are not powerless at this time. We can choose to change that which is around us that we can. There are two ways of exercising our power: hard power and soft power. Hard power is self-assertive. Your vote is an example of such. Soft power, on the other hand, is the power to let go, to relax. Soft power is like floating face up in a pool of water, and you just let the water carry you, and you don't try to take charge. Soft power is exactly what enabled individuals in my stories to get to a more creative place in dealing with all the heavy things in their lives. Our current situation is really a time for soft power. Soft power is that power that enables us to do what the Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron invites us. And I quote, "Letting there be room for not knowing, it is the most important thing of all." End of quote. When there's a big disappointment, we don't know if that's the end of the story. It may just be the beginning of a great adventure. Life is like that. We don't know anything. We call something bad, we call it good, but really, we just don't know. The writer Sylvia Bornstein calls the type of soft power surrender. She says, "I discovered there are two modes of the heart. We can struggle or we can surrender. Surrender means wisely accommodating ourselves to what is beyond our control. Soft power, surrender power. We must use the power we do have differently. How will all of you choose to use your soft power? What price are you willing to pay? I ask all of you, is the price right? Will you accept the challenge to use your soft power to pay it forward? I promise you that paying it forward can be something that each of you can do in this next month. Perhaps you choose an individual or a family in this community, and you order online for them a meal, and pay to have it delivered. Perhaps the next time you are at the grocery store, or fast food, or at the drugstore, you pay for the person behind you. Or perhaps you write a note to someone sharing with them how much their being a part of this community means to you, and ask them to do the same for someone else. Reverend Linda and I are amazed at how many of you are dealing with simple acts of kindness to many in our church community. It is my hope that in these coming weeks, each of you will find creative ways to use your soft power to pay it forward. The price is right, and the prize is a sense of peace and calmness and joy that can and will help to comfort, to build your inner resilience during these difficult times. May it be so.